So I only had issue 2, and just this week I was like, God, I don't want to just go over issue 2, because issue 2, I mean, it's obviously all of them are beautifully drawn and we can get into it, but like, you know, this is the setup. This is just stuff is happening, and then this is the climax. This is going to be the exciting issue. So Collector's Paradise, I called them up on like Monday, and they were like, we'll have 1 and 3 for you here on Wednesday. So I was like, oh, thank God. And then they were all excited. They're like, Chris, we got you a Dan Panosian signed issue #1 copy and a foil title issue #3.
Wow, Chris.
Wow. The Dan Panosian signed this.
Jeez.
Not
terribly rare if you live in LA, because I hop into the comic book shops and, you know.
Yeah, just every paper bag is signed. It has your signature on them for some reason.
Yeah.
Well,
thanks for picking.
But yeah, no, I was glad to get it all, because like I said, like I didn't finish reading it, so issue 3, and I still haven't actually read it. I looked at the beautiful artwork, but I haven't actually. I don't know what happens. I don't know the ending of this yet. But
I had to read them too, because I worked off plot. I was just working off plot, and so
I'm sorry. There's a lag, huh? Because we keep stepping on each other.
Yeah, there's a little bit of a lag.
That's what I was going to ask you. So, like, Scott Snyder wrote this. You know, obviously made his mark with American Vampire, and then his like seminal Batman run, and then, you know, a million other things. I mean, I always love the stuff that he has. Scott has figured this business out, because it seems like every other month there's some sort of like $1 million exclusive deal that he's got with like,
oh yeah,
you know,
sure,
Comixology Originals, and then it's Distillery, and now it's he's got his own imprinted PCs. Good for you, Scott.
Yeah, he's always at the right place at the right time.
Yeah, man. Good for him. Yeah. But it's cool that so did he come to you? Did he come to you for this project? I assume that he did. Or was Will Dennis already on it and had you in mind, or how did this start?
No, we met in Dallas at a convention, but I'd met him a few times before, but never really more than hello and goodbye and pleasure to meet you sort of thing. Because I was a fan already of his work. And he's like, oh, we got to work together one day, and it's just got to be the right project. And, you know, normally, like you, I prefer to write and draw my own stuff, but an opportunity to work with someone like Scott, it's a big deal. And I wanted to jump on it. And like I said, it was a horror Western. I was like, oh, man, I always wanted to, you know, work on a Western. So
yes,
who better to do it with?
Yeah.
And I'm glad I did, but it was fun. Like he's an unusual writer, especially nowadays when everything is fully scripted out for the artist. We just worked on plot together, so it'd be like a few paragraphs, like per page, like maybe 3 paragraphs, and then it's on to the next page. Or it might just be like 7 pages of text for the whole issue or something like that. And then I would often ask him, I go, do you want to know what I was thinking? You know, because there are plenty of times where characters are talking. And he goes, no, I think I can figure it out based on what you've drawn. And then so that's the fun part, is watching how Scott crafts a story. Like, obviously it's his idea, the pacing, what happens, how things are, you know, the story itself is 100% Scott. And then I come in and like director, but then it's like having the script created later after the movie shot. It's crazy, but he does such a great job.
So it's Marvel
really
style.
Cool. I'd love to work with him again one day.
Yeah. What? So it's Marvel style, I guess.
It's essentially Marvel style.
And I wonder if he works that way all the time.
Really cool. I don't know. Maybe. This is the only time I've ever worked with him. But everyone I've talked to who has worked with him is like, said the same thing that I'll say is like, if you have an idea and you bring it up with him, he's not like, nope. He's very collaborative. He's not that I had tons of ideas.
Right.
The only thing I'm super always proud of, and I always mention, like in an interview in the first issue when um, Marshall Holt is breaking that egg open and eating it in the beginning.
Yeah.
There's a page in there where like that's evidence, actually, that one right there.
Yeah.
My idea was like he's talking to the guy, and for whatever reason, he holds onto the egg, and he's like, "Well, that's breakfast," and
Yeah.
it's just an unusual way. It's always nice. Like Eduardo Riso does that a lot, like especially in 100 Bullets, where even in the background, if people are talking, there might be a crime taking place, like a petty crime happening in the
Yeah.
background. You know, it's just a, you know, that could have just been two people facing each other in different headshots talking. But I was like, let's do that, because now we're gonna learn a little bit about this guy. He's a little rough around the edges. He's, you
Yeah.
know,
It's character
he's
building.
from a different era.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, it's character. So I mean, the fact that he let me do stuff like that made the project much more fun, because I don't even know how many pages. It's well over. It's probably 130 pages or something like that.
Gotta be.
It's a lot of
Gotta be.
work.
Yeah. Yeah. Let me go right back right to the beginning. So, dude, this your environments in this are just like absolutely beautiful. And your choice of
Chris.
and this like I think you still kind of do this, right? Where you have this like very like brushstroke painterly abstract
Yeah,
kind of background tying things together.
yeah. I
And
wanted to have like that 1960s, 70s spaghetti western feel, and I just
yeah.
vibrant, wild colors. And I made the mistake, kind of like that what we just experienced with the Last Dragon thing, where in my memory I was like, I want to make this look like the TV show The Wild Wild West.
Uh-huh.
Um, and in the beginning of that TV show, they had, it would look like kind of like comic book panels, and I had a specific memory of what it was. And I was
Mm-hmm.
like, I wish I could find that. And then after I started doing the book, after I was maybe 20 pages in, already coloring it, I was like, well, it's got to be on YouTube. And sure enough, you could find the intro of Wild Wild West, the TV show from the probably 70s or 60s on YouTube. And I did, and it looks nothing like how I remember it, but
Yeah.
just flat color. But um, in my mind, it was these vibrant brush strokes and this sort of craziness. So that was the inspiration.
Yeah. I think sometimes your memory of things is often better than the way that the thing actually was. That happens a lot,
Yeah,
in my, you know, retrospective childhood things, or different, not maybe not necessarily better, but different than it actually was. And that's
mm,
actually absolutely like fodder for your creativity moving forward, I think, as an artist, to take what you thought it was and turn it into your own thing, you know? It's like Tom
yeah.
Waits
I think it's
talks about how he loves to hear music like through a hotel room wall, like because or because it warps it and muffles it, and even if it's a popular song, it doesn't sound like the same thing, and you can take it and turn it into something else.
that's crazy. I never heard that.
Man, God, just like you must have been feeling really craggy while you were drawing this, because there's a
Yeah,
lot of rocks.
there's a lot of rocks. I love
um
backgrounds, and this book has no shortage of them.
it doesn't, and you're really really great at it. You found a lot of like interesting reference that I think most artists would have just sort of been like, I'm just going to kind of go with what my perception of a revolver looks like. And then your
Mm,
revolvers in here are actually like the ones that have like not the divots in them, like the smooth,
mm. Yeah, this cylinder.
revolvers,
Yeah.
and all sorts of just little details I noticed. Like, are you gonna? This is probably a question for later in the discussion, but is there any plans to do like an artist edition of this? Just put it out black and white?
Originally, originally there was. I don't know if the book is popular enough to warrant it. If something ever happens with this series, like somehow it becomes a TV show or a movie or something
Yeah.
like that, or maybe the graphic novel itself sells well, that might inspire Dark Horse to put something like that out. But as of now, I kind of doubt it. I mean, although Scott and I own it 100%, so if we really wanted to, I guess we could do a Kickstarter. But Kickstarters are not as easy as people make them out to be.
No, they're not. Yeah. No, the only reason I ask is because just the line work in here is just so gorgeous, and the color is gorgeous too. But it's a totally different animal, when you lose the color on it, to be able to see like the little details of your foliage and stuff. I could look at your trees all day,
Oh, thanks.
Yeah, and so I noticed a lot in this one. Almost every page you have at least one panel that goes all the way to the margins too. Is that like do you always do that, or do you do that like when each project comes along? Do you get like do you
I mean,
start to
I try
how
like
to
you.
lay it out?
I want to maximize what I'm able to do. So most comic projects I work on are full bleed, so I might as well full bleed them.
Yeah,
Use every. What's the point of having gutters?
right. Well, Chaikin would wring your neck
And
for
by
saying
gutters, I mean the stuff surrounding it, framing the entire work.
right. Yeah, that's true. This doesn't have anything to do with time. This does.
Yeah.
Man, that force perspective is brilliant there, man.
Well, thanks, Chris.
I just had to point that one out. It's just so good. And so it's interesting because you said that you just worked on like a synopsis for it, and yeah, you got a lot of like pacing with these conversations and stuff, just kind of like making them up in your head and then handing him off and seeing what he does with it. It's got to be kind of interesting too.
Yeah, well, I mean, in some cases, he is saying, well, this person responds this way to this action, and it's
Sure.
not. I'm not. But how I pace it, how many panels I use to make sure that action happens is up to me.
Yeah. And I love how you keep it very, the panels are pretty sparse. A lot of them are just like 3 panel pages, and then you get to this action here where you're just like boom, 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 boom,
Yeah.
with the gunfight. Did you
Mhm.
ink this and then do a color hold on the blood, or did you add the blood as a color element afterwards? I was curious about
That was
that.
probably after. That's
Okay.
after. Yeah. That's the fun part of coloring your own work, which, man, in retrospect, if you can use a colorist, use a colorist.
Yeah.
You know?
You didn't do you a lot of times I know you do the like automatopoeia yourself, right? You add it to the
Yeah,
actual
all
page.
of it is.
All of it is on the page?
Yeah, in some cases, I'm drawing it in, like it's actually on the original.
Mm-hmm.
So,
Man.
and the sound effects are all, you know, my weird sound effects, I guess.
You're so good at
Blam is
that
not that
too.
original, is it?
Well,
Well, that's another
I,
throwback to like,
go ahead.
oh, sorry, that overlap we keep,
I know.
keeps making us overlap each other with this audio. But like the comics I love, like Howard Chaykin's American Flag,
Yeah.
there's a heavy aspect of the lettering in that book, and same thing with the unique way that Walt Simonson's Thor book was lettered.
Workman's
It was
stuff. Yeah.
interesting, like it was different, and
Yeah.
it became a part of that story. And so lettering is a huge part. Like the lettering in this book, Richard Starkings made for me. It's my handwriting, and Richard Starkings did the lettering, but he let me do all the special effects lettering. So
Awesome. Yeah, I love to put my own effects in on my original artwork too. I just feel like it makes it gel with the artwork better, and it's just part of my style. And I was just recently asked to do a project where they said not to do that, that they wanted the letterer to put the effects in, and I was like, oh, I don't know.
Yeah. Don't listen to him, Chris.
I have a hard enough time letting people color my stuff. I hate coloring, but I also hate when I get colors back and it's just like, oh.
Yeah, I'm the same way.
Guess I'm a control freak. I love this tree that how you colored on top of it too, and it's like the fall leaves, and so you put like a splatter brush over it, and the splatter of the that you just let happen kind of feels like the leaves falling off. That was a great effect, man.
Well, thanks, Chris.
And then this page we talked about. I'll do it. I'll pull it up again, but you hadn't seen The Last Dragon since you probably read it as a kid, but the the similarities between those two subconsciously that you pulled are amazing. And I wanted to pull this one up too because I was thinking about how brilliant this framing is. Just the way that the rocks and the silhouette of the horse, and then you follow the line down, and then you've got him walking here with the gun, and this bright background. It's just framed so perfectly. It's just a beautiful composition.
Oh, thanks.
This is just going to be an episode of me complimenting you. So,
yeah, which I'm not great at, but
just sit there. Yeah. Good thing it looks like your video might be frozen, so you can't get your reactions.
Oh no.
So like where were you pulling reference from for all this stuff? Did you like this wagon, like the undercarriage of the wagon? How did you where did you find reference for an undercarriage of the wagon?
I mean, it looks like it's all just kind of Frenched in there, doesn't it? With a lot of black.
I mean, there's a lot of black in there, but it's not all black. There's definitely like support beams and rivets and boards that are like what is it called when you don't use screws, like just jammed in there.
You always see that on Facebook. Wood jamming of some kind.
Yeah.
I mean, I like there's a way to Eric Canary always gives me a hard time. He calls it flim flam.
That's what Eric Canary does. He gives people a hard time.
He likes to. He loves insulting people, and he loves insulting me in particular. But
with love.
So if you put enough gadgetry and lines over anything, it all of a sudden starts to be something. And a lot of times it's just nonsense,
just bullshit. I mean, it's not like this is Kirby tech or something. This is like these are like boards that look like they could work together. I understand what you're saying, but
sometimes if you could like less is more, but a lot of times if you want to make something look a little bit more technical, someplace where you put one line, you put three, so now it's like divoted in a little bit, and it gives it a little bit more that looks a little bit more real than just a coloring book,
right?
So if you put like three lines on the interior of a windowsill, then all of a sudden it looks very detailed, but it's just three lines,
right?
Three squares as opposed to just one square for that window, and all of a sudden it has a more realistic look. But it's not that much harder to really do,
right?
Or that time consuming.
You really go for the wide angle force perspective on this to like great effect, because these shots and these wide shots that you do here, these like real like cinematic wide shots are all just like really, really done well. I love how it's like in this V pattern down here too, to pull you right into him.
Oh, thanks, Chris.
His hat's an interesting choice. because you don't, when you
Yeah.
think of the West, you don't think of a hat that looks like that, and he's almost wearing like a
No.
pyramid pilgrimy hat.
Yeah, it is. And I just Dave Johnson hates that hat. I'm sure a lot of people do, but I thought it's more of like a farmer's hat, and he kind of he has a farm, and
Yeah,
I also wanted it to be different than every other cowboy hat, like a stereotypical cowboy hat. Like it's a very distinct hat, because
yeah,
it's so high, it's so tall.
yeah,
So like it or hate it, it still becomes like his Superman S. It's
yeah.
his iconic symbol, as much as that mask of his is that he wears later. Like it's a part of his silhouette, as it were.
Sure. Yeah, exactly. See, that's what I was getting at. Is like it's a great silhouette. You can tell him just in silhouette from all the other characters. And also it sort of works like an annoying commercial. Like, yeah, maybe Dave Johnson hates it, but guess what? He's talking about it.
That's true. Yeah.
um yeah, I'm gonna buzz through these a little bit. But essentially the story that I'm not gonna give away because I don't know the ending is that this guy
Mhm.
is like a I guess is he like a famous sheriff because the kid
Yeah,
knows him.
he's almost like a Wyatt Earp or a Bat who's that guy? What was his name? There's a Bat something or other. But there's a lot of famous sheriffs in those days. Like we think of the Old West as being like, oh my God, it's centuries away. In reality, the
No.
older you get, you realize, oh, that wasn't that long ago.
Yeah.
And while things were happening in the Wild West, as it were, back on the East Coast, life in America is fairly civilized.
Yeah.
And then so you had these heroic, crazy stories of people in the frontier making its way back to the East Coast. And so these people were like legends in their own time. You
Yeah.
know?
There's like there was an incident that happened in his past that was some weird guy that was an almost supernaturally looking thing. He found a bunch of dead kids, right? And there's sounds down in this. By the way, having to draw dead kids sucks, but these feet are
Yeah,
amazing.
there's no fun.
These
We
feet
had to
are
delete a
incredible.
bunch of pages too that were just, yeah, we deleted a bunch of pages from the story as well because they're
Really?
too gruesome.
Yeah, I imagine.
Yeah.
But
So
um
I'm like, if there was an artist edition or a special edition, like if by some miracle Canary was like celebrated in some way, then I would kind of force us to put those pages back in.
right, right.
So
But you had to have so much fun drawing these feet because you don't draw bare feet that often, and they're not the
no,
same as hands. you know,
yeah, not from that angle, you know.
Man, I was looking at those going, oh, I'm kind of envious. That would have been fun to tackle. There's a
A little.
weird shit that goes through my head as I look at stuff. Um, I mean, you're like, again, your vistas are just like really, really out of a John Ford movie. It's like insane. I noticed too, like that you don't do you when you scan these in, you don't go hard black on it, do you? You let the light
No.
ink show through because
Yeah,
then it
so
almost gives it like a
that's
line
so when I use
hold.
a it gives it that effect. Yeah. So
Yeah,
when I have the ink in multiply layer, if it's a gray, whatever color is behind it is going to change that a little bit and give it a softer, more animated look to it,
yeah,
as opposed to it. And and on some small level, it feels a little bit more painterly, I guess.
yeah,
Um, I mean, I'd love to get so good that I'm actually just painting comics and not using lines to delineate shadows in the same way that traditional comics are. But I'm just not. I'm not there yet. I can't do it, but maybe
you're
one day. Who
You're
knows?
close. You're close. And you know what? The very fact that you're of that and going in that direction, I mean, I don't think you're very far from that.
Yeah.
Well, I mean, every single interview that anybody does with you, it has to go into the fact that you're one of the few artists who's like grown into become a master, if you follow your career. And it's, obviously you're only still doing it. You're headed in that direction. You'll be there very shortly.
Oh, thanks. I hope so. I mean, it's what's fun about this job is that I'm still learning constantly.
Yeah.
And still excited about like learning and getting better and understanding color. The more I color my work, the better everything gets, because you're understanding how light hits surfaces, and I'm still kind of new to the coloring.
Yeah.
So hopefully it all coalesces in a nice way eventually.
Yeah. And there's always new things that you can learn and directions that you can go to. This house is amazing.
Yeah. Thanks.
Isn't there
Well,
a
that's
real
the
house
house,
like this
Chris.
that's like on the
I
edge of a
didn't make
cliff
up
in the
that
middle of
house.
nowhere?
What?
Isn't there like a real house that's like this? It's like on a cliff on the edge of a cliff in the middle of nowhere that's super ornate.
Maybe. I mean, I referenced that house, so that's probably a photograph. But
Yeah.
How it's positioned on the rock is an entirely different thing. Like Chris Scott wanted a house built into the rock, so that's what you get, I guess.
Yeah. I love this angle here that, when they're coming into the house and you do it from the top of the balcony, and, you don't like pussyfoot around with perspective.
I was having fun working on.
Go ahead.
Oh, because I had done a page that was really intricate for An Unkindness of Ravens, because I was doing like flashback sequences for that book for Boom, and this hotel itself was supposed to look like a maze, and so like going kind of MC Escher on that, the Unkindness of Ravens double page spread kind of inspired me. I mean, this one isn't as intricate, but it's still, what I wanted there is like you're coming into this place and there's staircases and curves, and there's more to it. There's something creepy about the house. Everything's supposed to on some level. But if I was really bold, there'd be a lot more black on the page. There'd be a lot more shadows, and maybe you think you're seeing more, but there's actually less drawing there.
Right.
Like Eduardo Risa does that great. Like in 100 Bullets, like the characters will be in a bar, and you'll see a bar stool, part of the drinks behind the bar. You just see maybe 6 aspects of what that place is, but the rest is all in shadow. And that's the mark of a tremendous artist. I think when you have this sort of stuff, it's as I get better, there'll be a lot more shadows, hopefully.
Yeah. The like the Toth school of thinking, right?
Yeah, less is more, and then like we were talking about earlier, like our imagination fills in so much more than we possibly can.
Yeah. Did you like heavily photo reference this, or did you lay this all out? Because what a pain in the ass.
I have to look at that page. There's a glare on my. I'll just light in here. That might be a hodgepodge of different reference looking back, because this was probably drawn over a year and a half ago. But
right.
I'm sure the one part is from one thing and another from
Yeah.
I like to come from that school of Wally Wood. He had a great quote about making your life easier. If you can, don't draw it twice, or maybe I'll look it up. It's a phenomenal quote about
I'll
using
paste it up
reference,
on
like
here.
being smart.
Yeah. Yep. This almost looks like feels like a cover. This splash, it's just.
Here it is. Never draw anything you can copy. Never
Hmm.
copy anything you can trace, and never trace anything you can cut out and paste up.
Yep.
There you go.
I mean, it really is,
That was
work smarter, not harder, isn't it?
yeah. And I mean, ultimately, it's people don't like to believe it's a throwaway medium. It's like comic books are not each page is framed and put on your wall. It's a way to tell a story, and like you're spending more time on these pages than probably most people do. Most people just flip through, they get to a page where there's a big image similar to that, and they might stop.
Yeah.
But like individual little panels, like however you can get through them and move the story along and move the eye along, that's what's important.
Yeah.
And we spend hours of our day or days drawing a page that someone is going to turn and look at for maybe 10 seconds, or if
Ain't
they're
that the
reading it,
truth?
maybe 30 seconds. Yeah.
Yep.
So sometimes I got to remind myself about that and
Yeah.
go look,
Yep.
you know,
Step back and
but then again, there's always, yeah, but there's the people that put the crazy amount of work in, they seem to get a lot of attention too. So there's something to that,
there
taking
is.
so
And
much
there's also
pride
the
in your work.
aftermarket where people are buying your artwork
Yeah.
too.
Yeah. But then I look at like a Darwin Cook, I'm like, talk about a guy who worked smart and still left such a tremendous impact on the industry. And yet that guy could, if he needed to, he did about 4 to 6 pages a day.
Yeah.
He did them on
Yeah.
typewriter paper. It was just towards the end.
Yeah. It's just very little lines. It's all kind of just shapes, and it's cartoony and expressive. He probably didn't have to do a whole lot of referencing and work like that to do a lot of stuff, because he could just kind of make it up
Very
if he wanted.
smart. No, he's just working smart, working fast, and he's just very confident in what he could do, and that confidence goes a long way.
Yeah, and he had his
And the
layout
guy is,
fundamentals down.
Yeah, that's from years and years of storyboarding animation.
Mm-hmm. Exactly.
I mean, that's the type of guy, like, sadly, life was cut off before. Who knows what that guy could have created? But even in his lifetime, as short as it was for most creators, I'll be lucky if I achieve like maybe 1/3, 1/5 of what that guy could do. From a storytelling perspective and legacy, it's just an amazing. That's why he's thought of and regarded in the way he is.
Exactly. Well, goals, man.
Yeah, goals.
Your painterly background effect worked especially well underwater in this scene, I thought.
It's fun. Those are easy paint. When it's all one color, it's a great thing.
Yeah.
It's all blue,
Yep.
or all red or all yellow. It's always helpful.
And then here you finally get a chance to start drawing some weird creatures.
Yeah.
These eyes are creeptastic, man. The very few people can nail the beady eye like in a visceral way. Like Topi did it in, I think, like The Collector or something like that, and like Brecchio did it in, I think, like Mort Cinder. But
oh yeah, that was a great book.
That's really great. Yeah, that's a book that I want to talk about sometime on here, because that book was drawn at the same time as the EC guys were doing their stuff. Like, it was the 50s. And like, I think that it looks like leaps and bounds. That book looks leaps and bounds past that era. It's wild.
Yeah, it's an incredible book, and guy's following the beat of his own drum there. He's not being, I don't know. It just seems like it's a very original work of art.
Yeah, talk about a guy who changed as you follow his career. His style wildly changed. Great panel, man. Look at that. It's got everything you could want.
It's probably Elena right there.
Yeah. Do you use her for photo reference? Marissa would never.
Yeah, she's usually
not let me photograph her.
women. You know, I'm a lot of times the guy. Like if you look at a lot of artists are that way. Like if
Yeah.
who's Sean Phillips, you could tell like, oh, Sean's drawing himself there.
Oh yeah. Al Williamson like was notorious for drawing himself into stuff, I think.
Yeah.
Yeah, I can see your face in a lot of stuff. There's a lot of artists that, see that. Somebody asked me that
Yeah.
the other day if like a lot of my characters look like me. And I said, I don't really think so. They said, you don't use your face for photo references? Like, I really don't a lot. I use my body, but not my face. I don't know.
Hmm.
Maybe I'm a weirdo. I
Love
mean, I know I'm
thyself,
a weirdo.
There's my face in the lower panel there.
Yeah. Yeah, I can see it there.
No,
too,
no, I meant on the other page.
Oh.
There's a lag. I meant on the picture. So that's a bad joke on my behalf.
Oh, this one here?
Yeah, that's me.
Yeah. So you are pretty much, you're of the school, and I think that you or Dave or Jeff, you guys sort of like, I like to say that you guys mentored me because you really sort of did back in those drink and draw in-person days. But across the board, you guys were kind of like, don't get crazy with your panels, just tell the story straight until you don't have to. And then this is the climactic issue. This is where you start to like bend your panels and stuff, right? What's your feeling on that?
Well, that's exactly that. Like the perspective's changing, the panels are getting crazier. Also, I have to say, Scott also wanted that as well. Like he's such a good storyteller. He knows. He's like, okay, now let's start really messing with, showing that things are out of control. And that's a great way to do it. I did a book called Butterfly by the guy who wrote The Three Body Problem, Lou Zixon. And I adapted a novella of his called Butterfly, which is another thing I worked off.
You did for the Chinese market?
Yeah. And that one is approached in a very Wes Anderson way. Like there's 4 panels per page on every page, and it's very straight. Like everything is in line. Everything is centered. Centered. And then as the book goes on, things start getting off center and off kilter. And then, I don't even know if you can, I mean, obviously now that I'm saying it, of course you can tell, but the same thing with the coloring. Like the guy is supposed to be doing everything for his family. But he leaves his family in order to do this. Like he's a strange kind of oddly selfish hero. And so the moment he leaves his family, his world turns primarily very desaturated. And when you show his family, they're still in color, and the few pages left of the book where they're still there.
Wow.
So even the coloring is very deliberate.
Yeah.
In that book.
Yeah, I love that when every aspect is.
I did that book before. So I did that book before I did this book. So I'm sure I was thinking about that on some level.
Yeah, I guess that makes sense. Do you know if they're planning to release that here?
I hope they do. I mean, I hope that the Three Body Problem is popular enough that it does get released here. Mad Cave showed some interest in doing it. I mean, Lou Zixon is like the Stephen King of China. Like he's an extremely popular novelist over there. But, over here, hardly anybody knows who he is.
Right.
Which is crazy, but it's, it's life.
Yeah. Yeah.
So hopefully I will. I think it's a Butterfly. I think is the best thing I've ever drawn, and the best storytelling I've ever done.
Well, then we need to see it. Mad Cave.
Oh, there you go.
Come on. I love that you switch it up here and start to do. There's a few panels where you start to do more of like a watercolory and alcohol and watercolor effect in the background. It's like the sky
trying to be. Yes, me trying to be Bill Sienkiewicz there.
Nobody should ever do
that. No.
Subtly, though, it works.
Oh, good. Man,
I'd love to get Bill on here and pick his brain about how he does stuff.
Yeah, good luck on that. I mean, probably wouldn't be hard to get him on there, but like you can pick his brain all you want. It's still mind-boggling how he
Oh, I
achieves what he
know.
achieves.
I know. And this stark
Well,
tree shot, I just thought was a beautiful shot with everybody here in this horizontal thing, and then this breaking up the negative space with this craggly, you know, dead tree.
yeah, thanks.
I mean, that says a lot.
Says I like to draw trees.
You do like to draw trees. You're very good at drawing trees. But you could almost read something into this, you know, like narratively, subconsciously.
Well, I mean, yeah, it's supposed to look. I mean, it's supposed to be creepy and dead and say thought. You know, there's also, you know, not to give away story, but there's, you know, most of this stuff takes place in this mine, this old coal mine. But there's veins of, like, you know, gold has veins within a mountain, and
Mm-hmm.
these branches are kind of veiny, so it's supposed to kind of mirror that in a way.
Yeah.
Where it grows and gets thicker in the middle, the evil intensifies in the middle, and
Yep. I can see that. There was one page, man. There was one page where you do what you were talking about earlier, is just sort of leaving out the line, and then you filled it in with the color. And now I can't find it, but well, I thought it was beautiful. And then this guy, once you actually see like this guy, you know, as we get to the climax, we're not. I don't think it's giving away any story, but people should see the design of your creature, of this guy, because man, is that creepy, with the mustache
yeah,
and the nose just left on it, and then like the sunken eyes in, and it almost looks like if it's not skin under there, it's like muscle tissue, very
yeah,
like
it's like
Clive
some kind of,
Barker-esque.
yeah, very sinewy tissue of some kind.
Yeah, and then you put the orange, you know, on the nose to give it almost like life, just a little bit of life to it.
Yeah,
God, man, you're okay, Dan. You can draw good pictures.
thanks, Chris. Look at all
Well,
that
I mean,
lettering.
yeah. I mean, if anybody hasn't gone and picked up this book, they need to get out and grab it, because you got two masters at work on this thing. I'm assuming they're going to collect it in one graphic novel too.
Yeah, I think it comes out either the beginning of summer or the end of summer. I can't
Awesome.
wait. Yeah.
Yeah. Is it going to have extras or anything in it? Do you know?
I don't know. I asked Chris. I haven't heard back from him yet. I mean, like we mentioned, that guy is he's probably writing, you know, 25 things right now. So
Yeah,
um,
that's true.
I should probably hit up Will Dennis and see if we
Yeah.
can't include some extras, because there's so many things that didn't make it into the book.
Yeah, I'm sure. God, just, I mean, as always, you know, you're like a huge inspiration for me, and you know, you're always there to help me out when I can't figure something out, and I just appreciate that so much. And you know, I love just watching you grow all the time, and you give me something to inspire to, and you keep me, you know, working harder every day, and it's working for me. So I have to thank you for that.
I can tell. If something's working for you, Chris, like, you're super creative, and you know, it's a thrill to see the work all the time. I'm like, oh, oh my God, what is that? You know, or it's very fun stuff, and not everybody has that. That's a gift. So keep it up.
Thanks, man. I want to show you something real quick before we go. This is what I'm, because I'm insane. This is what I'm doing now.
All right.
This is my new book, Three-Headed Pigman. But this is the size that I'm working
Of
on.
course.
It's
Oh, you're nuts.
it's
Wow.
yeah, it's 19 by 24, and there's no white
Jeez.
medium on here. That's all hand drawn around the stars.
Lunatic. You're
Well,
a madman.
yeah, no one ever said I was sane. So,
No, no one said that.
no, they didn't.
That'll go over pretty. People at comic book shows will love to see those originals. My God,
That's what I'm
so
hoping.
cool.
I'm really hoping. The only
Yeah.
problem is they're pretty big. I'm gonna need a pretty big suitcase and something very hard to put them into so they don't get all jacked up.
Yeah,
I
definitely.
want an art rep is what I want. And so that's part of this is me like screaming out into the world, rep me, sell my art for me.
You gotta at the shows just meet them and tell them, you know.
Yeah, I will.
They,
Grab them by
very
the neck.
rarely will they come after you. You have to knock on their doors.
That's true. I will keep doing that. Well, thanks for coming on. Instagram, you're at Urban Barbarian. Twitter, you're at Urban Barbarian. Your house says at Urban Barbarian over the top of it. So
Yeah,
and
Amazon.
And people can buy some of your original art through Essential Sequential, right?
Correct.
Cool.
Yeah, he's my art dealer. And at conventions, I'm generally with comic sketch arts.
Okay,
so,
cool.
But
Awesome,
my art
man.
for sale is Jason at Essential Sequential.
Beautiful. All right.
Thanks, man.
Well, thank you.
Chris.
Thanks for like taking us through the journey of making this book, and I hope people go and get it and it's like super successful so that we get that artist edition.
Oh, thanks, man.
Yeah, you got it. All right, later.
All right, cheers. Bye, Chris.
Join my Patreon to see my work before anyone else, plus score physical sketchbooks, mini comics, and commissions delivered right to your door, and reading my new books, Something Seems Off and Three-Headed Pigman, as they are made. Go to my website to order original art, commissions, and my books, Lost Angels, Spectral: A Showcase of Fear, Chaotic Neutral, and more. Gray Matter Drip, The Art of Chris Anderson, is available now from Cosmic Lion Productions. Here are the upcoming conventions I'll be at the time of this recording. And don't forget to like, follow, and subscribe. It helps spread the word. Thanks.